especially in the northern part, political tensions are always heightening, and that is disrupting community cohesions, is displacing families, destroying a lot of livelihoods, and deepening poverty in the northern part of Ghana, particularly among women, children, and other vulnerable groups. There have been statistics. I'm just doing this for us to put this discussion in context. The statistics, according to the Ghana Statistical Service in 2021, give us that figures that 11,770 internally displaced persons are found in Ghana. And about this number, and of this number, 14.1% of them are in northern region. And nearly 60% of these internally displaced persons have been displaced for over 5 years now.
The Ghana Statistical Service.
And over 5 years now. And recently, the Interior Minister also gave a figure that 338 conflict hotspots are found nationwide, spread across the whole nation, noting that the North has more of such conflict, but the northern region is always experiencing more of the violent incidents and has a higher propensity of threats. In recent times, we all know what is happening. If you take even only August this year, the tension that is coming up in Savannah region over Briefors and the Gunjas, and that has resulted in confirmed 31 people dead, over 40,000 to 50,000 people displaced. And unfortunately, we are even recording some of our own brothers and sisters, over almost 14,000, that are taking refuge in in Côte d'Ivoire. We can also talk about this thing without looking at the tension in Boko, which is recurrent almost every year, and it gets worse usually after every election. And that is the basis for our discussion. And for us, when you look at it, the effect has always been on women and children. Displacement and loss of livelihood is very real. Access to essential services, food security is an issue, shelter, health, psychosocial support. We are looking at education disruption, risks of gender-based violence and protection, and psychosocial trauma, psychological trauma. That is the basis for this. And for that matter, this is our webinar this afternoon, put together by the 4 organizations I mentioned earlier. Our objective is to create a space for dialogue that deepens the understanding of ongoing conflict in northern Ghana and how that affects the wider national interest. We are also supposed to use this webinar to shed light on the often invisible but very vital roles that women play in sustaining the peace we have, while also examining what are the potential barriers that are there and the opportunities to prevent them. Thirdly, we also have a third objective, which has to do with, we are also supposed to use this webinar to encourage reflection on how communities, institutions, and policymakers can act more decisively to integrate women into the peacemaking processes. Finally, we want to use this, our webinar platform, to inspire women and young people across the country to see themselves as active contributors to the culture of peace. That is our essence. And on that note, we want to acknowledge the people who put this together. That is African Women Network, Leaders Network, then Women Media and Change, then ONEP Ghana and SWIDA for this opportunity. Now, having said this and placed the context for this discussion, I want to set some rules that can guide us so that we can get this done very well. I want to say that we will begin with our opening remark. If you look at, unfortunately, we didn't share the program, but I'll go through the program for all of us to have a look at it. We will follow definitely by a panel discussion after the welcome address that will be given to us. Then we will now give a room for interaction where the essence of why we are putting this webinar will really be realized, because after listening to our experts, panelists, they will open discussion for other experts' perspective to come in, and they will have a conclusion of what our way forward is. And hopefully by then, all of us, our voices would have been heard, and we can communicate that to the powers that be. I would also like to say that for us to be very fair and get this thing done effectively, I will plead that we all off our mic so that when you want to talk, you unmute and be able to speak. And then finally, also, we should be able to respect time. So on that note, I would like to immediately enter into the discussion in terms of what our agenda is like. So I am going to ask for, I missed the opening prayer, but I'm going to ask for opening prayer because all that I did was just to put us in context. So we are officially now going to start. So can we get a volunteer to pray for us?
Yeah, before you,
Hello?
can I ask the host to mute?
Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please, Dorothy, can you mute?
Please, can we be in the mode of prayer? Okay, we thank Almighty for making it possible for us to join this online meeting to learn nothing but peace. Oh Allah, we pray for you to grant us success in this webinar and whatever that our expert is going to share with us, may it be beneficial and may we put it into practice. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Abdul Fattah, for the prayer. Our program is like that. We have up to 2 hours to be able to have a very good conversation with knowledge backed and then experience shared. So we are after the opening prayer. We are going to take an opening remark from Madam Juliet Amwa. If she is there, she can give us the opening remark.
Thank you very much, Ajia. Good afternoon. My name is Juliet Amwa, and I'm Vice President of the African Women Leaders Network. And on behalf of our President, Dr. Charity Benka, who's the chair for the Ghana National Chapter, I'd like to welcome you to the celebration of the International Day of Peace. And this year, as you have heard, the theme is the role of women in addressing conflict situations, particularly in northern Ghana. Our focus for the year is on conflicts in the northern region because these have deep roots that are shaped by history. They're shaped by competition over resources. There are disputes that are emanating from chieftaincy issues, land use conflicts, ethnic and political tensions. And all of these disputes have disrupted lives as we continue to hear, and they've displaced families and slowed development in the region. The impact of these conflicts is not felt equally, as people in those regions will tell you, and as global statistics will show you. When we say it is not felt equally, we are saying that women and children often bear the heaviest burdens when it comes to conflict situations. They lose livelihoods. They're the ones that suffer most because they have to gather themselves and find places, and they're more vulnerable to violence as a result of the conflict as well. At the same time, women can't always see as the victims. We have to see women beyond their weaknesses or their so-called vulnerability to starting to recognize that women are community mobilizers, that they are negotiators, and in fact, peace builders when it comes to conflict and conflict resolutions. They are quiet, but they play a powerful role in resolving disputes and holding families together. And they do a lot of mediation at grassroots, talking both to their sons and their husbands, their uncles, and so doing those grassroots negotiations. But they are often overlooked when it comes to formal peace processes. And that's why today's discussion matters. If peace in northern Ghana is to be sustainable, then women must be fully recognized and they must be supported and empowered essential actors in building the peace that we all crave for, because we know that they bring perspectives that are rooted in community, trust. They are bringing to the table resilience. They are bringing to the table different ways of resolving conflict. And by ensuring that female voices are heard and that their leadership is strengthened, we can move closer to lasting peace in the region and across Ghana as a whole. And so that's why today, Aulin Ghana chapter, WOMEC, and our other partners, as you've heard, have come together to put together this event. We all know that the women, peace, and security issues at the heart of what we're doing is to actually make sure that women are indispensable when it comes to preventing conflict. We want to make women indispensable when it comes to shaping negotiations and sustaining peace. And we can't talk about that kind of peace without recognizing their leadership. And so from every level, actually, from traditional councils and all the way to the national decision-making bodies. And so we want to understand conflict today. We want to understand and delve a little bit more into why it is the way it is. And we want to reimagine the solutions, especially solutions that call on women and integrate women's leadership into them. And that's what we would like to see today. And so on this day, as we commemorate the International Day of Peace, I'd like us to move forward and to commit to strengthening women's leadership, all of us, especially for the males that are listening to us today. We want you to commit to strengthening women's leadership in the peace process and advancing women, peace, and the women, peace, and security agenda that helps us to build a peaceful and inclusive Ghana for all of us. We're very grateful, as I said, to our partners, UN Women, WOMEC, SWIDA Ghana, and WANEP, especially, who readily accepted our invitation to partner to bring this important discussion to bear. And so I wish all of you a great deliberation, and I hope that we all contribute our ideas to making the discussions more relevant and more practical. Thank you so much. Ajia.
Thank you very much, Madam Janet. Sorry, Juliet Amwa, for this inspiring opening statement. I think that you've made a very critical point that we need to, I just want to use 1 minute to emphasize that you said that women definitely, when it comes to impact of conflict or violence, the differences in terms of impact are not the same, and we must recognize that and re-emphasize. Women also need leadership to be at the table and be part of the peacemaking process. They need skills, they need knowledge, and we must also recognize that. And importantly, as women, we need to be there and make our voices heard. Thank you very much for those inspiring words and putting us in the mood to officially know that Aulin is behind us and they're committed to this discussion. The next on our agenda is to also listen to a statement by the UN woman, Dr. Efia Sarr. If she's on, she can give us the UN woman statement. Then after that, we will get straight into our core business. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I've been trying to find a place where I can sit and be heard.
Okay.
So anyway, I'd like to thank all the organizers for having me here this afternoon to say these few words. Distinguished colleagues, panelists, and participants, greetings. I just started greeting afternoon, morning, and everything. So depending on where you are, please take your greetings and acknowledge you for being on this platform. It is a privilege to join you on this International Day of Peace 2025 to mark the day and in the context of Ghana, for us here to reflect on the role of women in addressing conflict situations in Ghana. We will bring in here the northern parts of Ghana, which, as we have understood, will be forming part of what we'll be discussing today. It's not surprising, Hadia has given us the figures. Most of the conflicts in Ghana are around the northern parts of Ghana. And so it's important that we look at it. And she also mentioned that the most recent eruption of violence has been in the Savannah region, which is also in the northern parts of Ghana. And so we will be doing justice if we looked at conflict and women's role in northern Ghana. The International Day of Peace itself, which is also known as the World Peace Day, is celebrated every year on 21st of December, which falls today. And it is to promote peace and encourage people to stop violence and conflict. It was first established by the United Nations in 1981. The United Nations itself, as you probably know, was established on the ideals of peace and development. And so for UN Women, which is an agency of the UN, issues of women, peace and security, ending violence against women and girls, women's economic empowerment, and women in leadership are all important for global consideration, as it can be seen in the SDGs, and in particular SDG 5 on gender equality. And I think Madam Juliet in her speech mentioned some of these as being critical for women who mediate in conflict. Conflict in northern Ghana, whether chieftaincy disputes, land use tensions, or ethnic rivalries, have long disrupted the stability and development of communities. Beyond the immediate violence, these conflicts take a heavy toll on women and children, who are often displaced, stripped of their livelihoods, and exposed to greater risks of insecurity. Women usually bear the brunt of such conflicts, yet they are also powerful agents of peace, as we have heard. Across villages and towns in the northern parts of Ghana, women have acted as mediators, community mobilizers, and advocates for dialogue and reconciliation. Their work, though often invisible, has been central to rebuilding trust and restoring harmony. That is why the Women, Peace and Security agenda is so important. Adopted 25 years ago through the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, it affirms that women must be at the table where peace is negotiated, sustained, and secured. Ghana has made progress in integrating this framework in its own development framework. CSOs have worked hard to implement important aspects of this, as seen in the work of the different coalitions, such as traditional and religious leaders, the UNWA's Working Group on Women, Youth, Peace and Security, WANEP, SWIDA, WOMEC, who have been working around with media, and others like our own Ireland. Governments have also shown more with progress, especially in its security sector, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior, and especially uniformed women, and also through the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection. But more needs to be done, particularly in ensuring that women in conflict-affected areas, like in the northern parts of Ghana, are supported, resourced, and empowered to lead. One of the main roles for celebrating the World Day of Peace is also to get us to commit to what we'll do in the coming years. On this International Day of Peace, I urge us all to reaffirm our commitment, one, to break down the barriers that limit women's full participation in peace building. 2, that we commit to strengthening partnerships between government, traditional authorities, civil society, and women's group. And 3, to commit to ensure that women's leadership is not an afterthought, but a cornerstone, the mainstay of sustainable peace in Ghana. At UN Women, we remain steadfast in our support for Ghana's effort to advance the women, peace, and security agenda. Together, we can ensure that peace is not only achieved, but sustained, because when women lead, peace lasts. Thank you very much.
Thank
Hadia,
you
back to
very
you.
much, Dr. Efia, for that. Where women lead, peace lies. That's very, very important. And I want to also revise again, remind people of what we are discussing today. We are discussing and celebrating together with the whole world, the World Peace Day. And for us in the Ghana here, we are celebrating it, and as partners, we are looking at the role of women in addressing conflict in northern Ghana. Just for those of you who have just joined to know what we are discussing so that you prepare to be active participants. Yeah, so we've listened to our UN message, doctor who has delivered the UN message very clearly. She insisted and also emphasized that women must be at the table where there is peace being discussed. We don't need to, after the discussion, now come and tell us. No, we want to be there, and not just being there, actively being there and be heard. And then we also say, she also mentioned that more needs to be done for women. We need to support women. They must be resourced and they must be empowered to lead at the table where they find themselves. Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. That just prepares us very well to go into the very essence of this, where we are having expert discussion on the on the team. And in no specific order, I'm just going to give you the panelists. We are having 4 good panelists. If you look at our beautiful webinar flyer, we have very strong team that we have put together with over cumulatively, if you want to put together their years of experience, we are getting to 100 years of experience in the peace space. So I can assure you that it's going to be a very good, impactful discussion. So I want to just let you know who is at the table. So on this table 1, we have Madam Ajia Lamnatu. So I'm going to read her brief profile for all of us to know what she brings to the table. Ajia Lamnatu is a seasoned development practitioner with over 25 years experience in gender and human rights activism in the development space, and has a solid background and track record on research, gender-responsive programming, and management. She has very deep interest in the fight for social justice, with focus on community development and empowerment of the marginalized. No wonder when it comes to alleged witch, you cannot remove Ajia from that discussion. She will do it very passionately. So we are so proud of her. Ajia also contributes significantly in changing the narratives of gender discrimination and violence against the excluded. Her advocacy work has earned her several awards, and more still on the way coming. Her commitment to community development is evident through leadership in the implementation of several gender transformative projects that she has led Suntava to implement. Currently, she serves as the steering committee member for the Network for Women's Rights in Ghana, a zonal coordinator for the Affirmative Action Law Coalition. She also is the immediate past convener for the Girls Not Bride National Platform as the National Gender Transformative Lead for the Power to You Consortium in Ghana. She's a gender champion for the U.S. Embassy in Ghana. Also, with that her vast experience, Ajia has diverse background. She brings to the table humor that is very relevant to a discussion and expertise. She inspires hope to women and young people. She's a mother and currently serves as the Executive Director for Sontaba, a women's rights advocate organization. Ajia professionally holds a MSc in Local Economic Development and a bachelor's degree in Development Studies. So please, let's welcome Ajia with thumbs up. So Ajia is on table 1. Our second very important expert on this panel is a very young lady who is very passionate about what she does, unless you don't see her making her points. So we are thanking her for agreeing to be here. She's Fatih Abigail Abdullahi. She's the Executive Director for Widows Orphans Movement, located in Bolgatanga in the Upper East region. She's been in that position since 2013. She's equally the founder of a social enterprise called Atara Ghana Limited. She's a steering committee member also of NetRight since 2022. Her leadership brought together state and non-state actors to establish the Upper East Regional Support Fund for Abuse Victims in 2022, which is still operational. That's the first regional fund ever established. She remains a core trainer and a coach on topics such as evidence-based advocacy, organizational development, gender, peace and security, social enterprise development, supporting organizations, especially women's rights organizations, to enhance their effectiveness and efficiency. Fatia Lassa also brings to the table a lot of organizational experience in the space we want to discuss, especially peace. She holds a degree in National Resource Management from the KNUST since 2009, and a second degree in renewable energy, sustainability and technology from the University of Reading in the United Kingdom. She is currently a student of the Global Online MBA run by ESMT Berlin. She has received several training in livelihood and markets, facilitation and trainings, community change, community-based resource management, among others. She is a product of Coady Institute. She is also an 2025 alumni of Ghana's Women's Social Leadership Program and a proud alumni of the Mandela Fellowship Program in 2017. That is Fatih Abigail Abdullahi. Hands up. Fatih, welcome. My third panelist is no other than our own national facilitator for WANEF Ghana. He's Albert Young. Albert has a cumulative 23 years of experience and has facilitated dozens of trainings on human security, early warning and response, alternative dispute resolution mechanism, conflict sensitivity, natural resource governance, violent extremism, democracy, elections, among others. Albert brings to the table a lot of experiences and has provided guidance to many preventive diplomatic engagements, framework for peace and security. Albert is one known face when it comes to media discussion on peace, security in Ghana. She's a media resource person on conflict, peace and security in Ghana, and an advocate for SDG 16. So Albert, national facilitator, that is on our table 3 today for the panel discussion. Our final, but not the least, is a young person who is so passionate when it comes to peace. Yeah, he is Abdul Muhsin Mohamed Shani. Abdul Muhsin is a passionate young developer and advocate for peace and security. With 10 years of dedicated experience, he has committed himself to creating peaceful and inclusive communities by addressing the root causes of conflict and inequalities, tackling violent extremism and radicalism, and fostering sustainable development for young people especially. Our young Muhsin holds a master's degree in conflict management, peace and security from the Kofi Annan International Peace Training Center. He has a certificate in community organizing, mobilizing, and nonviolent civil resistance in West Africa, from the Building Blocks for Peace Foundation in Abuja, Nigeria. Mr. Muhsin again is a young peace and security foundation expert. He's gone through training in ethical leadership and peace building and youth in leadership from the same Kofi Annan Peace Training Center. Also has electoral management and observation certificates, disaster management and response, conflict prevention and violent extremism, as well as training on alternative dispute resolution. Currently, Abdul Mumin serves as the Executive Director for the Empowerment Center for Peace Building, EMCEP. His dedication to a more peaceful and just world is evident in his effort to empower marginalized individuals and communities and promoting sustainable peace and security for all. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are the profiles of our four very important panelists that we have assembled for you for this afternoon. So, Ms. Ajia Lamnatu, hello.
Hello, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Madam
Ajia.
Fati, welcome. And then Albert and Theo. Yeah, so for this particular discussion we are going to do, for our participants, I would like to entreat that we may just, if you have questions to ask, you just note them down so that when we finish the round, you will be able to freely ask them. When you want to ask, you say that, oh, my question goes to contestant number this. Then the contestant will definitely answer you. What I mean by contestant is the panelist. You mentioned the name of the panelist that your question is going to, so that the panelists will be able to. Yeah, so from our list, we have 4 rounds of questions to go. And those 4 rounds are going to respond to our objectives for which we have put this webinar together. So before we start, I would just like to give each person an opportunity, 1 minute, to tell us something that they like about peace and how peace relates to them and what they do, so that we'll take it from there. 1 minute each. And if there's something also about you that we didn't add in your bio, you let us know.
Do I take it that I start? Ajia, I thought you call us.
All right, table 1, start.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, good afternoon. If some people are joining us and in their mornings, good morning, and I'm happy to be here. For me, I'm a Muslim, and Islam, you cannot do without always saying peace. As you see it in our greetings, Assalamu alaikum. May peace be on us. You know, so even from our greetings, from Islam as a concept of religion, peace is associated with it. As a woman also, I think that even at home, all we ask for is peace, to be able to live happily with our children, with our families, and our communities. And
Thank
again,
you
when
very
there is no peace, mostly it affects women and children. And so that's what I can say about peace. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, so let me call Muhsin. Muhsin, 1 minute.
Yes, Ajia, thank you very much. In fact, for the opportunity given to me. I think, what is the name? Being a peace lover is not about just being a passive. It's about being a builder. And also, we choose peace because it is the only foundation strong enough to build our future. We all know that conflict destroys. It's undeniable fact that it tears down homes. You know, it destroys economies, and also it destroys lives and property. So peace built, you know, it creates opportunity, you know, safety, and allows everyone to thrive. So I'll say that loving peace, it simply means loving people, and it also means choosing understanding over hatred, and also building bridges instead of walls.
So I think that is why I love peace so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Mafati.
Yeah, hello everybody and good day. I have a cold, so my voice is a little bit down. But for me, why I like peace is because um the absence of peace breaks families. And when it breaks families, it puts burdens on mostly the surviving spouse, especially the widows and the children. And me being somebody that grew up in a family where I lost my father, I understand the difficulty. And I live my life wanting peace because I want everybody to stay as long as they can on this earth for a better family life for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, our own national coordinator, Albert.
Okay, thank you and good afternoon, everyone. I don't want to say that I eat peace and I dream peace. That is what I think about all the time. And I hope that every human being should have security, and be able to meet his or her basic needs, that all of us as human beings are secured, that all aspects of our lives are satisfied. And I always say that peace is not sent, it is created. We expect that everyone should work towards peace, and it is not enough to just want to win, but it's more important to think that you should, at least create an environment where you can interact and then be able to create peace within wherever you are. That's basically what I do. And for a living, and it's my passion. I hate injustice. I can be very passionate about it. And when I see that people are being treated in a certain way, I can be passionate about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So for the rest of us, you've seen why we put this team together. They are all passionate about peace. They believe in peace. They live peace and they love it. So that brings us to setting the context for this discussion. Yeah, so I want to start my conversation with Madam Fati. Mafati, given the work that you do and the fact that you are you're speaking with a voice from the Upper East region. You understand the dynamics that has happened over the years in Upper East region. I want you to share with us, from your own perspective, what have been the main drivers of this recurring conflict that has always happened in Northern Ghana?
Yeah, thank you very much. So, especially in the context of Upper East region, we've had conflicts that have risen from chieftaincy, and I call it chieftaincy succession. Usually when there needs to be a succession of a chief, then we start having issues around that. Even in Bolga right now, we know that we have another chieftaincy conflict. But beyond the chieftaincy conflict, which is fueled by not having well-documented succession plans, we also have issues around resources. So issues around land, where the use of land or the distribution of land as a resource brings about conflict. We also have instances where it is just about the use of the land, because one party wants to use the land for something else which will displace a lot more people. And so in the context of, let me say, Upper East or in most parts of Northern Ghana, I would say that these are most of the reasons why we have the conflicts: chieftaincy, land resources, but more important, I would say all these things is based on power. Sometimes the love for power, the love to control things, brings about all these conflicts.
Thank you very much, Fati. I think that Fati has said that from where she is coming from and from observation in Northern Ghana, the main drivers has been around chieftains, not just chieftaincy, but the succession that has not very straightforward, has always been one of, and the resource allocation, who is in charge of controlling what resource and how that is shared, as well as importantly, you made a point about power. Sometimes people know what the rules are, they know what the guidelines are, but they will use the power over somebody to be able to abuse the system. So that is Fati's perspective. I want to come to Aja Lamnato. Aja, you can add also from the Northern Region perspective, but I want you to, I want you to be very specific, also looking at how that those drivers that have always caused the conflict that we have, tension rising almost every time, to the extent that as a CSO, you work under tension. Every time you send your field officers to the field, you are worried, and when you are doing your proposal and they say, what are your risks? I'm sure that normally we always state conflict and tension in some of the districts we pick. I want you to look at how that has affected children and women, particularly the fact that they are the people that we call vulnerable, and they are also the people that we usually will target for the gender transformative programming that we do.
Thank you very much. I think in your opening statement and the ones that we have heard, the issue of displacement has come up severally. And then also we cannot push back the effect of conflict, especially when it comes to women. The fact that women usually will experience increased level of, trauma, and then also pushing them to violence, exposing them to violence, destruction of their family. For example, once there's displacement, families will most likely be disrupted, social disintegration, and mostly also they need to also stay in a confined place for a long time. And so if you look at conflict and its effects on women, it's enormous. Think about livelihood, especially as women, where mostly we derive our livelihood from is within our markets. And if there's conflict, markets is mostly affected. And if you look at the key stakeholders in our market, it is the women. And so once markets are disrupted and markets are no longer in session, it tells you that women are most likely to be those that are going to be affected. And then also girls, children, let me say, but also girls, because we would have had increased household chores for women, which would transcend to girls at home, increased violence at home, which again would transcend to girls most likely. And so the effect of peace, it's greater on women and girls. Apart from the livelihood, we are looking also at accessing other social amenities or other services. For example, if you look at even where conflicts are prone now, many health service workers will not accept to be posted there, and then also it then limits even women's ability to travel long distances to be able to access health. And so if we want to discuss the effect of conflict on women and girls, then I want to say that it can be far more than we can imagine, the effects on women and girls. I've talked about livelihoods, I've talked about accessing markets, I've talked about accessing health, even accessing information, it affects more women than men in our societies. And for us in the civil society space, it affects even our outreach. Mostly our key partners are our constituents, which mostly reside in our communities, especially those of us who have to do work directly, with our constituent at the community level. Then we are even afraid to travel to such communities or to such district. As I speak to you now, a lot of our projects that are in Upper East in Savannah are on hold because of the situation we have, especially in Savannah, which has recently. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for bringing those up, especially linking it to the work that we do as civil society organization, where it affects our outreach. So thank you very much for bringing all those and re-emphasizing the effect in terms of how women and children are affected differently and the magnitude of that. Yeah, so on that note, still on the setting the context, I want to come to Albert will be last asking some particular question that of interest to all of us, but I want to come to Mr. Mohsin. Mohsin, I don't know whether you have other things to add in terms of the drivers and also from the work you have done, especially with the young people. I don't know from your perspective, what will you say has been some of the drivers if you want to narrow it down to young people, and how all those conflicts also affect young people? Maybe in 2-3 minutes, you can do that for me.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Ajay. If you really want to examine the North properly, we'll get to understand that the northern Ghana faces a lot of complex security challenges, which is rooted in historical grievances. Some are economic marginalization, and also evolving threats from the state of the regional instability that we are currently experiencing in West Africa. So if you look at the North properly, you realize that there are so many factors that influences the risk of conflict and even to extent of violent extremism. So I think Madam Patti made mention of chieftaincy disputes. I also want to add a little flesh on the land and resource competition. Climate change is something that we cannot exclude when we want to discuss factors that increases the risk of conflict in North. It's undeniable and indisputable fact that temperature increases in the Sahel. It is stated unofficially that what is it? The 1.5. It is 1.5 faster than global average, which I believe have altered migration patterns for herders, leading to increased farmer-herder conflict. And I think if you have been operating in Canada, you realize that Canada is among the northern communities experiencing the farmer-herder conflict. And in addition to that, the recent violence in Binyiri in the Savannah region, that was just last month, demonstrate how local disputes can also escalate into inter-ethnic violence. Another important factor that most of the times we don't usually consider is the external influences. And so in conflict, they call them shadow actors. So you realize that northern Ghana's proximity to conflict zones in Burkina Faso and that of Ivory Coast creates that vulnerability to spillover conflicts. The presence of the approximately about 189 unofficial border crossing facilities, the flow of arms, and the filtration of small arms and light weapons, and that of the militants. So there are reports which I read from the UNDP website indicating that about 200 to 300 Ghanaian youths being recruited by extremist groups like Jama'at Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin Security Council in Mali. We also have another one, Islamic State in the Great Sahara. So most of the times, young people are the targets. So I believe that these are some of the factors that increases the conflict that we have in the northern Ghana, and these are some of the impacts that it brings on the young people, because it doesn't actually create a platform for them to continue their education, and also another important factor is youth unemployment. Trust me, Asia, we have in our societies a very young and outstanding graduates who have been in the system for a very long time without getting an opportunity to be employed. And these are young people who have wishes. These are young people who want to do better things in their life. So if they are not fortunate and they are not too strong with faith, these groups usually recruit them easily because they'll give them an amount of money that they have never seen before, and they can easily be tempted. So basically, these are some of the factors that I would like to add to that. Thank you, Adja.
Wow. Thank you very much for this. I want to say thank you for introducing other perspectives to the drivers. You brought the issue of climate change, that we can no more be talking about conflict drivers and leave the issue of climate change, given where our location
Not
is.
at all. Not at all.
Yeah. And then you also importantly brought this issue of the external influence that sometimes the tendency for us to ignore it is very high. Thank you for raising that one. Then the porous border. So you have introduced governance issue, you've introduced a lot of environmental concerns, and then the issue of youth unemployment that is glaring staring in our faces. And every time statistics is increasing, the unemployment rate is not reducing. I don't know what we can do about it, but we need to do something about it. Thank you for that. Now that brings me to our national facilitator, Albert. Albert, I want you to, from the work you've been doing so far, in terms of mediation, negotiation, be on air responding to conflict issues, providing technical backstopping. I want you to share with us how, for you, has women's involvement in traditional or community-based conflict resolution in Northern Ghana, how has it evolved over time? Is it even there? I mean, I just want you to share that with us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Hajia. And just so you know, it has started to rain here. So I'm adjusting myself to be able to
And
get
that's
you.
bad. Me too, where I am,
Take
it's
over to you.
raining
But
anyway.
yes, so but before I respond to that, I would like to just add a few things to the drivers.
Okay.
Let me say that I mean, and these are things that very often we ignore in our discussions, in our analysis of what the problems are. Now, we do not always want to go back to our colonial past, you know, how we understood power those days and how power is these days that can be shared. So, for example, we had some groups in the past that already had chiefdoms. Others did not have chiefdoms. And later on, they had the chiefdoms when we had this indirect rule. And people under a constitutional regime want to assert themselves to be able to lead themselves, that it is not somebody else who should be leading them. So there is that struggle, especially those who originally dominated others, to transition from that understanding and that feeling into a new kind of feeling that should allow other people who want to assert themselves and want to lead themselves traditionally and whatever, you know. And basically, the understanding is on the rights. What rights do they have as people of a constitutional country, you know, or sovereign state? Now, the other thing that we have been struggling with is the issue of the stereotypes, prejudices that we have. Don't forget that Northern Ghana in particular is having multiple groupings, you know, identity groupings. And unfortunately, there are some of the groupings that tend to undermine others in terms of respect, recognition of who they are and all that. So that diversity, you know, exists, but then how to manage that instead of utilizing that to several advantages is kind of difficult. Again, I want to say that, you know, there is this perception that Northern Ghana is violent prone. I mean, conflict prone. If we say violence, fine. But we know that there are several, more than, you know, enough conflicts in the southern part than in the north. But the challenge has always been that how do we manage the conflict so that they do not degenerate into violent situations? So we have groups passing on stereotypes about how they perceive, you know, of other groups, and through the generations, So even when the older ones die, the new ones, younger people also continue in that kind of understanding. And so that has always been one of the things that also contributes. Now we have the unresolved substantive issues that some of my colleagues have talked about. So we have the issue of chieftaincy, succession, and I think Fatih highlighted that. It's not about a chieftaincy per se, but it is about the structures that are put in place and how committed people are. And some of our structures are too old, to be implemented in a sovereign state or under a constitutional regime. So they require a lot of reviews, Nevertheless, these are the ones that many of us or many of our people still want to hook onto, So it's not just about chieftaincy, but how people are competing for it, how people are not committed to some of the laid down procedures, traditions that exist and seem to be understood by the parties. So a lot of influences take place in that regard. And so it is with land. It's about access and it's about control of the land, And fortunately for us, our religious political conflicts are kind of seasonal. And when we go through the season, then we pack them in the lobby. Then when the season is ripe again, then we go back and pick them up, And the systems seem to be able to deal with that, our governance systems. One of the other things is education and awareness and building the capacity to be able to tolerate one another. Our diversities is one of the things that has kind of been influencing our conflicts. I always use this example that in some other jurisdictions, there can even be a chief who has passed on in the morgue, but they are going through litigation and other processes until it is resolved. Unfortunately, in some of the other jurisdictions, it's not the case. And so our tolerance level is also one of the things that we need to be looking at. And I think Muhsin talked about unemployment, how that can influence conflicts or drive conflicts, poverty, lack of, our livelihood resources and all that. There are several of them that we could be talking about. And even the systems that deal with our issues. We talk about rule of law, but very often we appear to be selective when it comes to the implementation of rule of law. Right from maybe intelligence, arrest after an incident has occurred, investigation, prosecution, sentencing, and all that. And even the presence of security arrangements. So there are several of them. And even the topic we are dealing with today, non-inclusivity of all the players who matter. And for example, women are usually left off when it comes to influencing processes for peace. The youth are usually left off and they are seen as young people, who don't have much to contribute, So, but over the years, we have seen that gradually the role of women has been increasing. I recall very well at the level of one, we had what we call WIMNET, Women in Peace Building Network.
Yes.
And this was almost like a crusade in all the regions in the north. Yes, and several groupings and the kind of role they play, in all the regions and jurisdictions that had problems. Eventually it is resonating very well with the WPS, and now we also have the YPS. At the global level, these are being localized. I would say many of the institutions, women-led, youth-led institutions, are localizing the framework and designing strategies that they are implementing, and implementing strategies. And they are kind of now, simmering in the traditional, governance systems that we already have. And I know that women in the past have threatened certain actions, and based on those threats, the men folk listened. Women, as Hajia indicated, are playing what we call quiet diplomacy, talking to the men folk, their husbands, their brothers, their sons, and elders in the communities who matter. Women, when it comes to early warning, early intelligence gathering, I say that they are top-notch. because they are a people who
I don't want to believe we have lost Albert. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
I guess
I
we
think
have
we
lost
lost
our.
him.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm sure he'll be struggling. He already hinted us that there's rain at his place. Even where I am too is the same thing that is happening. But I just want to, as we wait for him, give him some minutes to see if he will join. I want to just summarize or reiterate some of the things he raised as we wait for him. He brought the issue of power, like the traditional power over the modern power dynamics that we are having, and how people are not understanding that, and that is a cause for conflict. He also introduced these stereotypes and prejudices that are definitely in the system, especially in the North here. And with that one, we've not been able to coexist with that. It has reduced our tolerance level, making us not to be tolerating each other. And he sees that as a problem from where the work they've done so far. Has he been able to join? Not yet, right? He also
Ajia.
brought, yes.
Oh,
Has he come?
so
Has he come? Oh, Musi, your line too is not good though.
yeah, no, not yet. If you are
Musi, your line is not good. So Albert also
hello,
introduced.
Ajia.
I said your line is bad.
Oh, okay. I wanted to add a few things to what Mr. Albert said about the exclusion
Okay.
of women in our peace operation. Yes, I think he raised a very crucial
Musi, your line is bad.
point. That
Hello, Musi.
the exclusion. I want to focus more on young women. So if we see young women faces double barrier, that's how I call it.
Hello, Musi. I think Musi is also
Hello.
off. Yes,
Hello,
hello.
Ajia.
Yes.
Hello. Is it clear now?
Hello. Yeah, okay, it's better.
Yes, Ajia, I can hear you.
Yes. Make your point, then we'll go to the next one as we wait for him.
Yes, so I was just adding something little to what Mr. Albert said about the exclusion of women in peace processes or peace operation. I want to focus on the young women. I say that this category of people faces a double barrier. That's how I call it, their age and their gender as well. So if you consider the formal structures that we have, if you consider the formal structures that we have, that's the traditional councils, the mediation committees that we usually have in our regions or our districts. Most of the times, these are dominated by older men. A young woman's voice is frequently dismissed as inexperienced or even irrelevant, and even furthermore, there are immense social cultural barriers. Families may not even permit young women to attend such meetings, especially those held in the evening. So these are some of the concerns for their. Even there are instances where it raises a lot of concern on their safety, especially in the volatile areas, and often their domestic responsibilities are prioritized over community participation. So sometimes these are some of the things that also women go through when it comes to the formation of committees to actually look into the root causes of conflict in our communities. They are basically excluded based on these.
All right, so thank you very much
for us to.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know whether Albert has been able to join, but I'll move to the next level by.
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah. Oh, Albert. So we're holding on for you. So you
sorry,
can just wind up your point.
When it is raining, the live strip.
Yes.
So I was just indicating how women have contributed, and whether there is a change, in the past as we have to today.
Yeah.
So the point about early warning, I think I would not want to belabor that. Women play key roles when it comes to gathering information early and also supporting with intelligence gathering because of the kind of interactions that women, do more than men. And women as well, they are people who listen, and they are more intuitive. I mean, there is a lot of research. This should not be a debate. That indicates that women are more intuitive to the happenings around them than men folk do. Women, as we all know, are also influencing, what we call preventive diplomacy. They do caucusing a lot. And today we have many of the women groups that are there. We did not have women-led peace-building security institutions or any civil society as we have it today. There are many more of them today than we had them in the past, as well as youth-led, youth-focused civil society organizations. We have women who are influencing through their economic wherewithal, that compel certain people to listen because they are playing substantial roles when it comes to the livelihood of their families. And so they leverage that to influence peaceful processes, that skew people from engaging in violence and then to rechanneling their energies into productive use. Women are involved in a lot of outreach. I recall Kumpurugu, where we had a program in 2016, and afterwards two women who were very good friends and became arch rivals for 8 years. They went back, had a joint outreach leading peace education in their communities from one community to the other. Women do a lot of awareness raising, sensitization using radio. So there are several of these things that are now happening today, unlike in the past. And we have several of the women now leading peaceful processes, and that is why you can hear about the Africa Women Leaders Network. You can hear about SWIDA leading. We have women programming at the level of WANEP. Women are the ones leading them. We have Youth Empowerment for Life. Several women, now playing key roles, even at the UN. If you go to UNDP at the moment, there are many women who are there leading some of these processes. So there has been a change, and I am praying and working together. We are supporting other works that in the next 10 to 15, 20 years, we should have women having substantial influence when it comes to peaceful processes, and not just men using traditions, using customs, using resource, ownership, using the fact that they are masculine and whatever, and call it God-created leadership, to prevent women from engaging in peaceful processes.
Yeah, so are you fine?
Yes, I'm done.
Yeah, thank you very much, Albert, you've really been very comprehensive in your discussion as far as the evolution of women's participation in the process has been. So you've given out the indication that, yes, we've been in the space contributing, so we need to acknowledge that ourselves, and society must also acknowledge that. But we want to really be obviously seen, and that's why we are doing a discussion like that, so that we don't do it behind closed doors. Yeah, so thank you very much. My next line of question has to do with practical solutions and opportunities. Sorry, the barriers, which some of you have talked about it as part of your drivers. You've mentioned a lot of them, so I may not go there. But I just want to still ask a question to Fatih. How can some of the barriers that we have mentioned, barriers of exclusion, barriers of lack of right systems, like Albert talked about the fact that the system that should even, like the legal system, the political system sometimes is very selective. These are all barriers that really, so if you're a woman and you are even in the space, it's very difficult when some of these things are not even working. At a point, you just go silent. How can we overcome some of these barriers so that obviously will be known? We want to be very obviously seen and recognized. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that the barriers, there's a lot of work that is currently happening to address some of the barriers. They might not be directly targeted at peace, but there are other ways of still addressing this issue of women's role in peace and security. So, for instance, the ongoing work we have on gender sensitizations, letting communities understand the role of women, the affirmative action calls that we've been making, It's all part of the process. But I think that in as much as we now have some laws or policies that reaffirms the role of women, that ensures that women should be in leadership and should be formally recognized, and not just as is being said that our role traditionally has always been unseen and at the back and not fully recognized. It's important that as state institutions, we actually ensure that our systems are functional. If the systems are functional in general, it will serve well for everybody. And so, for instance, we know that we're talking about affirmative action now. And so if our systems from the traditional level all the way to the political level recognizes this and starts implementing the affirmative action law as we have it now, then women that are now outspoken, women that are leading, will not be seen as something that is not acceptable. And so it will encourage more women to want to put in more effort. It will encourage more women to want to take their peace roles more seriously. And it will actually serve as a reminder for more people and more women and even young women to want to participate. I also just wanted to add that one of the social barriers that we might not have mentioned has always been around issues around low literacy. Where I know that we mentioned issues around youth, but when you have a population that the literacy levels is low, the educational system is not made to actually tackle issues of inclusion, issues of recognizing everybody, issues of understanding that conflicts will happen, but then the processes of resolving them is through dialogue and other processes, then you start having more challenges. And so as a way of addressing this also is that we need to relook at our educational system, our curriculum, to ensure that we are not just training people to come and let's say maybe teach, or to come and produce an innovation, but to also understand that in the processes of all these things, whether you are a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or nurse, that we understand the concepts of peace building, we understand being tolerant to one another, we understand dialogue in resolving our issues. In terms of the another way of solving this issue is that I know that because of the so much talk around women representation, sometimes we have tokenism. And tokenism in the sense that you have, because we are talking about women, they just pick any woman who most likely even is not interested in the topic, doesn't even understand what is happening, and then to serve on a committee or something, so they can tick the box that we have the women
Okay.
there. And I think it's one of the things that we need to be looking at, that the fact that we are saying that recognize women doesn't mean that you should just put women there to represent women who don't really mean or don't buy into the idea. We should have the true women that are passionate about these issues to lead the processes. So I'll end it here and then my colleagues will add on. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much. This issue of tokenism have always come up for discussion, and it is important that you have raised it. We want to be there. We want the right women to be there. And the right women are in the space. Like Albert said, we have evolved, and we've been also recognized that we can contribute. So a lot of platforms have come up. So we are in the space. There are a lot of women who have studied peace and security, and they can really speak to it. They bring different diversity with the knowledge on peace and security. So I want to go to Hajia Lamnatu. Please, we are running out of time, but these are very important. We just seek your indulgence to continue. We are almost entering our discussion point, but my question to Hajia Lamnatu has to do with the fact that we are all in Northern Ghana, and this our particular topic is we are looking at the role of women in the peace process for us to be very secure in Northern Ghana. Now, for Northern Ghana, one of our key barrier is we have religious issues. We are very traditional as well. So I want Ajia Alamnatu to look at, in terms of practical solutions. We also have a lot of women groups, a lot of women-led organizations. In the midst of these two key barriers of social norms, traditions, and religion, what can we do to make our women organizations really that very proactive to be part of leading the peace process and being invited to the table and being heard when they are on the table? What should we be doing?
Thank you very much. I think before I just come to my question, it's also important to highlight some of what Fatih have mentioned, especially with regards to access to resources, especially water, because we can also deny that most of the conflict that happens within Northern Ghana has to do with sharing of resources, especially when it happens with farmer-herder, conflict. So for us in Northern Ghana, religion, tradition, very critical for us. And one of the challenges we have is the issue of gender norms, patriarchy, limiting women's ability to speak in public, and the fact that women are usually not considered, their voices are not usually heard, and the like. And also religion, where many times we are told that, I don't want to say men are superior to us, but many times, many of the voices of women are not heard, even if you look within our religious context. So as women's rights organization, I think some of the things we are doing is our gender transformative programming, where we are critically engaging the groups of men, the groups of boys also, to let them understand and appreciate how their actions are affecting, the entire development of women. And then also engagement of traditional authority. I'm also happy to state that if you look at the evolution of women, as Albert has mentioned, we've also seen lately how our traditional queen mothers are also adding their voice into the peace discussions. And so, but we also still have challenges with regards to their actual participation, especially in the regional House of Chiefs and other spaces. I mean, they have very limited space when it comes to, that level of engagement. And so we need to emphasize the need for women to be more involved, especially within our traditional setting. If you look again, we have the Nachinas, who are playing critical role, but many times we don't see the young women playing that critical role, as Mohsen has mentioned earlier. And for me, there is a gap there that we need to look at within our traditional system. And then also religiously, we perhaps need to work with faith actors to explore some of the verses that really shows how women have been powerful, how women have also led, and how women have, even led critical issues. If you look within the Quran, you have Surah, the whole chapter of Surah Maryam dedicated, Surah An-Nisa, women's chapter dedicated to women issues. We have critical aspects of the Quran that we need to engage our societal actors like our religious body to look at them instead of always looking at women and looking at our voice, the fact that we are supposed to succumb, the fact that we are supposed to be headed by men, and the fact that we are just women. Let me see how it's negatively, affecting us. So we need to do more of gender transformative programming, where we need to even critically build the capacity of the women, the girls, the young women themselves for them to appreciate that this is the time for us to be in the space. And like somebody said, we need to bring ourselves up to the table. If the space is not created, let's bring ourselves to the
We'll bring
table.
our table.
Let's take our tables to the space because we also matter. So we need to build their capacity. We need to engage media also, because many times you look at the way women issue are reported, and then it goes to further even jeopardizes the situation of women. The people in the theater, people in communication, they are all supposed to be on board. I mean, isn't it about time that if we want to show the role of women, we show them being in offices than them being at home, than them being in the kitchen. We see the girls also reading and the boys also sweeping. I mean, these are things that we can do differently to change the mindsets of people, especially within our work. But most of all, Ajia, is the fact that we all need to be deliberate and conscious of our changing time and read further, especially take advantage of technology. The fact that marriage, the fact that childbirth, the fact that being a wife should not limit our participation, should not limit our ability to learn, and should not limit our voice. And so these are many things that we need to do within our context. Let's show our voice. Let's bring the issues. Let's engage the people with the power. But most of all, let's get ourselves empowered.
Thank you.
I'm very positive that with the passage of the affirmative action, we need to do more beyond it being in the urban centers, to bringing it to the discussion to our district town hall meetings and our community level discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajia. I think that you just really made a very good points in terms of we need capacity to be at the table and be very relevant to the table. We need to knowledge. We need to improve literacy of women. We need to also work through technology, and we would need to work with the media. If we put all this together, we can definitely be at the forefront and be recognized as women leading peace processes. Thank you very much. I think we are going towards the end where we'll be looking at the partnership and policy actions. But I just want to give chance to my two gentlemen there to also, based on the practicality of the work they do, what other things that they need, if they have one or two to add that Ajia didn't mention, that can really make women really be part of the peace process. And when they are forming committee, nobody will not be added as a token where we are just taking bosses, but we are added because we bring value to the table, we bring diversity. So any point from each of you, if you have one or two to add. Then the Muslim, when you add, I also want you to look at the policy option. How can government, civil society, or traditional authorities better collaborate for us to have women at the table and get them all the skills they need, encourage them to participate and make their views heard as well, and so that we can achieve the peace we want in Northern Ghana. Please, I'm giving you 2 minutes for this. 2 minutes.
Okay, Ajia. All right, Ajia. All right, thank you very much. I think I'll just box everything and give it to you once. I think Ajia Lamnatu, my mom, has made a very good submission and great points. But I think another point I want to add to some of the things that she mentioned is that we need to be intentional about funding this women-led organization directly and not subcontract them. So I think we need to build their capacity as well. We need to build the capacity of the local women and even some of the young women-led organizations to access funding directly and not subcontract them, because we know the context better. We know the kind of thing that the women bring in the table. I always say that even if the role of, or even if women participation in peace processes were to be evil, then I think it should be a necessary evil. It's something that we need because they understand the context better. And also on the media, I think I would like to comment Wamek on what is the name, and highlight the role of women, or the role of media, the role that the media play in terms of giving platform for women to actually advocate or even play so much role in our peace process. We need to move beyond reporting only on the violence and instead highlight the stories of the grassroots peace builders, especially the women. So this, when we do that, it helps us to shift the narrative from one of hopelessness to one active agency and possibility. Another key point that we need to do is collaboration. So the solution will not come from any one organization. So the collaboration we see today between the AULIN, UN Women, ONEP, and Sweden Ghana, and that of the WOMEC is a model that we can all leverage on, and so that we can build that synergy, we can build that community to be able to give the platform for our women to participate very well in the peace process. So my call to action is for us to deepen this kind of partnerships that we have to intentionally include and also leverage women-led organization in this powerful ecosystem that we are trying to build. So talking about we need to be intentional about strengthening women leadership. AJA. So the quota system, that's the implement mandatory 30% representation of women in all peace committees, traditional councils, and local governance structures. We need these particular things. AJA, you will not believe that some districts don't even know that there's something they call district peace councils. And even if you go to communities that they have them, in fact, they are all men.
Yeah,
we don't have the perspective of the women. We don't have the perspective of young women. And how can you be designing a policy to address the challenge or to address concern of a category of people, and you don't have their feeling, you don't have their experience on the table, you don't have the kind of challenges that they go through, you don't even actually understand the context in which they find themselves. So I think nothing for the women without the women. It's high time we actually build that kind of community, build that kind of platform for them to participate peacefully. And women-only peace platforms. I think it's also high time for us to create formal structures for women peace councils at the regional and even the district level. Aja, we need these things. When we create that kind of platform for women, they'll be able to express themselves very well. This will even serve as advisory bodies to traditional authorities and even government agencies, ensuring women's perspectives are incorporated. And also leadership training. Ajia, we need to capacitate the women communities. We need to capacitate the women organizations. You know, fellowship programs need to be designed especially for the women interested in peace building and even governance. This should include mentorship and even components, pairing emerging leaders with experienced peace builders. When we do that, we give them that kind of opportunity to build their confidence. And when they are confident, that's where the competence would also come in. And also documentation and visibility is very important. We need to systematically document and publicize women peace builders. I mean, what Adia Lima, what Adia Lamnatu, I mean, all the great women that we have in this country, the kind of things that they are doing, we need to be intentional about documenting them and make it so visible so that people will get to understand and people will get to appreciate the contribution that you are making in the ecospace. Thank you very much, Adia.
Thank you very much. Is it 2 minutes? You did 5. But you are making good points, so I allowed you. Thank you very much for bringing very strong points moving forward into policy options, especially when you talk about the parallel structures for women alone to be able to be in peace building, and also raising a very critical concern that currently even a lot of districts are having. They don't even know that they need to have peace committee, and in those peace committees, it needs to be very sensitive. And I also like the point you made about the fact that this affirmative action must go down there everywhere. 30%, 30%, 30% as a start, 35% then into the 50-50 as the graduation has spelled out in the policy. So it's very important that we do it like that, and I'm grateful. So I'm coming to Albert. Albert, can you give me your view on this?
Yes, so thank you very much.
Finish, each of you has 1 minute to give me your concluding statements, and then one thing that you would like. So Albert, when you learn, add one thing for you, which is very important in this discussion, given the fact that Northern Ghana must be different. Northern Ghana don't need what is happening to us, and the women must be part of the process of the peace we are looking for. Yes.
So thank you very much, Hajia. And I always say that.
Hello, before then, I want to acknowledge Dr. Binka. Dr. Binka is the president for Aulen. She's not in the country, but I'm sure time difference. She's managed to join. So, Doctor, welcome. Thank you very much for joining. We are grateful.
Thank you, Hajia. Wonderful job.
Yes,
I'm
thank
excited
you.
to listen to hear you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so Albert, over.
So thank you very much. And I've always said that for people to be able to participate, there is the need for the opportunities to be created. And those opportunities can be created by others, and the people themselves who require those opportunities can create them. So I would wish that, and I know that there are several of you women out there, women-led organizations, youth-focused organizations, that are creating spaces for yourselves. Is very important. And that's why I like the idea about parallel kind of groupings, that you push yourself forward, put yourself forward, that this is what I have to offer, and make suggestions that are concrete, to help those structures that are already existent, get you on board. For example, we're talking about integration at the traditional council level. We're talking about peace committees level. If those opportunities are there, let us get ourselves on board by indicating that we are available, and then we have the capacity to be there to contribute. Confidence always will reside on when people have, the skills, they have the knowledge, to say what they want to say, to do what they want to do, and to lead, in what they do. So it requires capacity building, as Hajia and the rest have indicated. There have been many times that we're looking for even facilitation jobs and all that. And that's why I like the point Mushin made about mentorship. Then we want somebody to be there. Then we are able to coach, guide the person along the line. If there are certain gaps in terms of facilitation, then you say, okay, this one you could have done it this way and that, And so I would encourage women to acquire the certificates and also to get themselves involved in terms of, the skill development. It's very important. If you look at many of the things that we have said, there are at the moment formal structures or processes on Boko for the Solar Tuna Kalba, and my own former executive director, Emmanuel Bombande, is leading the solar process. But they have 1 month to do what they are supposed to do. Boko de Otumfo is leading that. We have, and Fatih mentioned Bolgatanga. There are several of these conflicts that are still dotted across the north, that in one way or the other, processes are ongoing, and civil society is facilitating and supporting in some of these influencing processes. What I would require is that, and Hajia talked about the resources. Can we have women-led, women-focused, institutions, resource enough, and also civil society, so that we build that collaboration and indicate that, yes, we are available with this capacity. This is how we understand one aspect is ongoing. We think that this other aspect can take place. For example, building a groundswell of people understanding their own issues and being able to tolerate the multiplicity and diversity that exists amongst them. In the Solar Tuna Kalaba area, a private conflict, land dispute, escalating to transcend beyond the Biniyiri, it tells you something, and we've been talking about this, So we need to look at these things, very concretely. Otherwise, then we will continue to do the talking. There are many of the, women structures, like the Queen Mothers Association, as we've mentioned, how resourced are these, the various regional Queen Mothers Associations that exist? They might just be existing in structure, but how impactful are these to the formal processes and other traditional power structures that we have and Musin has mentioned them, the Regional House of Chiefs, for example, is one of them, that even if by constitution, they are not expected to be formally part or integrated, how can they leverage the existence of these women-led, women-focused institutions? For example, I know that the regional security councils will always say, oh, Peace Council is not by constitution part of, and we have argued over the years that can they, as per their act, as to advise government, sit with the Security Council, give them advice, then they can leave. Then you can have your Security Council meetings, for example. Yes, so we need to see how we create some of these opportunities. Let ourselves be known that we are available, we have these skills, we have these capacities, and we are ready to do what is expected, so that together we can have, if we build forests that have differential capacities, then we do the collaboration, say that, yes, thematically, this is your area, this is that area, this other institution's area. And how do we, as a multiple grouping, support in addressing the multiple issues that exist, as far as our conflicts and security issues are concerned. Now, to end, as you said, my concluding remarks. Today, we are saying that the theme for the International Day of Peace is Act Now for a Peaceful World.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when I went to church today, I never read the Bible before I went there. But I realized that the scriptures we're focusing for today in the Catholic Church were about love for your neighbor and for God. Yes, and it was very interesting. I don't know whether it was the church that chose that before the International Day of Peace or the International Day chose that before. So they seem to be, aligned.
Yeah.
Now we have the UN Secretary General, making a statement for today saying that peace is everyone's business.
It is, yeah.
Yes, and that we must silence the guns, end the suffering of the people, build bridges, and create stability and prosperity. This also resonates very well with my, my principle in life. That is, every human being must be well treated, and every human being should have his, environment secured, and every human being should have dignity. So I will say that as we celebrate today, which is the International Day of Peace, let us create peace wherever we find ourselves, and not expect others to come and create for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Albert. And then we are almost there. And then my audience, I told you, participants, I told you that our team at the table really know what they're about, and they're passionate. When it comes to peace, that's what they eat. And then when they wake up and you touch them, they will say peace. So you can hear the perspective they brought, and I'm sure that the learning has been so massive. What I want to do now, Fatih, don't worry. You talk to conclude, so don't say that I've left you out. You talk. I want to give 15 minutes to our participants to, if they have anything to say, they can add, or they have some clarification on a point that has been made. We have 15 minutes for this. Then we'll be just getting closer to the end of the day. So I've opened the line. If you want to talk, you can raise your hand. Before then, I think that on our chat, we've had a lot of people commenting. There's a lot of thumbs up for a lot of the points that has been made. And then we have some even talking that at the table, that as for the table, we have to be there. Yes, good presentations, Ajia, insightful submissions coming from Noah. So everybody is happy so far. So please, if you have a point, raise your hand, and then also mention who the question is good. Please go straight to the point, I beg, so that we can save time. So let me start with Alfred Ghana. So unmute and then ask your question or make your submission.
Thank you, Ajia. Thank you, panelists. I think it's so inspiring, and we have learned a lot from there. My question goes to Mr. Albert. I think I'm one of his were young ones he raised, and maybe he might not know. I'm a Peaceway Fellow from them, and I'm leading an organization called APED Ghana. He spoke about the chieftaincy in the northern part of Ghana, where this transition from traditional to the modern power becomes a challenge. That anytime there's a issue of being raised about succession, is always issue of maybe conflict, issues of dispute. We have tried several means to resolve this, which we have not seen the effort in terms of creating peace. So I want to maybe ask Mr. Alian to see whether he has any different perspective apart from the current mechanisms that we are putting in place to resolve this dispute in terms of chieftaincy succession, where we can call this kind of dispute a thing to the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So what we'll do is that Albert, just take notice of it so that to save time, we will not be doing come and go. No, so that so I'm going to take Dr. Cord. So please, panelists, you can jot down the questions so that when the questions are over, we are taking just 5 questions, so because of time, or 5 comments, yes. So, Doctor.
Yes, good evening, Adia, and good evening to your panelists. As if I've really enjoyed today's discussion, and it's very informative and it's very, very educative. And this is some of the lessons that we need as development workers to incorporate into all project planning that we have. But it's something that I think we need to actually focus more on. And I want Adia, Lamna, and any other person to just share an insight on it. It's like we are looking more of general conflicts that has to do with national and then tribal conflicts. And I see a deep cutting conflict that also goes within even the household conflict, where women who are even vulnerable after the demise of their husbands have this conflict with their families and they are so devastated. I just don't know how these things can be dealt with. Well, this is even more deteriorating for women, even as compared to even the regional and national conflicts that we have. Sometimes they are going through some internal pain, internal distortion, and no one knows. And if people don't know, we think that as CSOs, that's a household matter. It's a family matter. So let it be. So how do we even sometimes support women with such situations who are in household conflicts that they are struggling with? And the other thing that I want to also talk about ask is to the WANEP and then Musin. Probably they are also experts in the conflict resolution. They mentioned the herdsmen and farmer conflict. You have a situation where even the chiefs and the security officers take these bribes. Some of them, I know a funny comment passed by a chief where he said even all other tribes living in this vicinity or area are even less of human than the once Fulani herdsman, just because of the cow he may get from the Fulani herdsman. So if they've encountered such problems in their line of duty, how have they been able to solve it? Are they dynamics to solve? Because some of these things go beyond just conversations, but even traditional leaders also get involved with greed. So I just want to know from 2 of them how this has also been solved. And the last thing I want to add has to do with the school teacher conflict. That's another conflict that we think is minor, but it's very important. Now we have even students having this conflict with their teachers, burning school assets, destroying teachers' properties, and when they close down the school, the young men have the advantage of going to Galamsey, going for other livelihood options. But the young ladies in there become vulnerable for predators in their communities. How do we even solve some of these things? So looking beyond just the national, regional, chieftaincy land conflict, then looking at this ignored conflict, how do we get them also solved and not to focus more on the national ones? Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Doctor. These are good perspectives. So they'll take notice of it. The house seems to be increasing. Can I take Sambu? Sambu. So I'm ending with Bukari. After Bukari, I'm wondering which hand is there again. But I saw 2 women. I'm going to pick all the women anyway.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Josiane Sombo. I'm the Regional Coordinator, Women, Peace and Security at the Regional Office of WANEP. So I would like to congratulate you for this very insightful conversation we have been having. and I've been listening to the speakers and also some participants who made some recommendations about the need for continuous capacity building for mentorship, which I agree with. And for me, in addition, we also need to begin to tell our stories. As you know, this year we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of 1325, which is a year for us to brainstorm about our achievement challenges as well. So I believe that even in the northern part of Ghana, a lot has been done. Women have been involved at some point. So we need to begin to tell our stories. So that can also change the narrative about what women are capable of, what is the added value they are bringing to peace efforts. So having said that, I would like to know whether there are some success stories. I thought the conversation will also focus at some point on sharing experiences of women in the northern part, getting involved in some conflict resolution. So is there any success story of any particular conflict that happened in the northern part where women have played a critical role, which we can share here as a good practice moving forward? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sambo, for listening attentively and then bringing this your question as well. So I'm taking Cynthia. So for this your question anyway, is it to anybody? Any one of them can answer, right?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. All right. So I'm taking Cynthia. Then I'll take Eric. I saw Madam Tia's hand also up. I don't know whether she has put it down. Yeah. So after Cynthia, I have 3 more to take, and I'll take again.
All right, good evening, Ajia, and to the panelists as well. Thank you very much for this opportunity. What I want to say is, looking at the conflict that some women experience, let's talk about the villages. Most of them are not able to speak to the men, or they are not able to convince the men to be able to settle it down. I want to find out if there's any way or there's any strategy as a woman, you'll be able to convince the men to be able to calm down when it comes to conflict, or to be able to resolve conflict. I'm saying this because most men actually look down upon we, the ladies or the women. They think we are not supposed to sit in a table where conflict is being resolved. So they do not just even need our opinion in terms of solving conflict. So I would like to find out if there.
Cynthia, we are almost losing Cynthia, but I think Cynthia's point is clear that but he couldn't tell us who is going to, he's assigning the question to.
Ajia Lamnatu. I'm assigning the question to Ajia Lamnatu.
Okay, thank you. So I'm taking Erica, and then I'll take Bukari.
Can you conclude the question for me? I didn't hear it well, please.
What is your conclusion?
Madam, please, Ajia, I'm saying that what is the practical way, or as a woman, what are we supposed to do to be able to help our brothers, husbands, and then nephews at the villages, so that they'll be able to resolve conflicts? Because they do not sometimes listen to us, or they do not even call us to come to the table in terms of settling conflict. So what should we do as a woman to be able to help them?
Thank you.
Because, yes.
Ajia, is it clear?
Yes,
right.
yes,
I'm
yes,
taking
yes, yes.
Erica, then I'll end with Abdul Samed Bukari.
Thank you very much. Please, I'm Erica Faribo, and my question is directed to Ajia Lamnatu. Please, I wanted to know how women's economic empowerment will reduce the likelihood of conflicts in the northern Ghana.
Thank you. Straightforward. So, Bukari, you are the last person to ask your question, then I'll give opportunity to our panelists to respond.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm Bukari Abdul-Shakuru from Damangwe in the Savannah region. Mine is to Mr. Albert. There is the issue of farmer header conflict within northern Ghana. I think we have done a project in that regard, and the main focus was forming a mediation committee, a mixed mediation committee to always resolve the issue of farmer header conflict within some selected communities within our area. But I think the mediation committee was set up on our follow-up to see how far they have done and how the progress of work in that regard. We realized that the main issue they have has to do with the chiefs and also the police within Damango enclave. I say this because there are instances the mediation committee will set will go investigate the cause of damage with an agric officer. Then when the fee is given to the header to settle the bill, you go behind to see the queues. At the end of the day, the farmer is in a way frustrated. The set amount that is supposed to even be paid to the farmer, that farmer might not even get anything at all. So I want Mr. Albert to look at whether there can be a better approach to address the said issue. Because we have picked this project from SECOSA with this mixed mediation concept. They have done it in some community with this our locality here. It has worked very well. But that has been one of their challenges too. And so I want to see if Mr. Albert can throw more light as to a better way to handle such issue when it comes to farmer header conflict, how our traditional authorities and the police have been taking bribes to maybe of the headers.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Those of you who have asked us critical questions. I know the people, the panelists have taken notice of it. So if before they come in, I want to say that we are about 30 minutes behind time. So I'll plead that we are patient to be able to finish this thing very well. So I'll just ask for extra 20 minutes so that we can respond and do all the other leftover activities to be able to end very well. So over to you. If we all agree, 20 minutes extension. Thank you very much. So Albert, and then Dr. Muhsin, and then Ajia Lamnatu. I think a lot of the questions came to you. But Haji Fati, if at a point you want to respond to some of them, those that were open, you can also take that. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe let me address those that were specifically addressed to me. One is what other pathways are available to resolving our chieftaincy disputes. And the reference was about how we are struggling to transition from our colonial past into a constitutional regime where people now want to assert themselves in terms of leadership traditionally. Now, we need to have a lot of conversations. And if you look across, for example, the Northeast, Northern, Upper East, enclave, we have a kind of a struggle that is ongoing because there are groups that think that, well, in the past, this is how it was. And today we think that it should be different. And now the challenge, very often we always say that we agree to something, but the reality is different. It's like when somebody says he or she wants to die, but at the point of death, it becomes difficult to contain. And there have been many times we say that, oh, we agree in terms of facilitating dialogue mediation processes, and they agree to the outcomes, that whatever outcome that they may arrive at, they would agree. But when it comes to the reality, some people go back and then they cannot sleep. And before you realize, the next morning is violence. Nevertheless, it is one of the processes. How do we orient people? And that's why even when issues are in court, we always would want that there are still other processes ongoing that can build a groundswell that when the outcome is reached and is announced, then the people who are following and who have interest in that may be able to accept whatever outcome it is. So we need conversation on that, so that people get oriented. And I think it was Hajia Lamnatu or somebody who talked about, the psychotherapy for people is very important. It's difficult for people to accept certain realities of their lives, and so that also requires that kind of orientation. For example, I have made commentaries that Otumfuo is leading a process. Now the parties have submitted themselves to it, but then there are following people who are not going to the Manshia Palace, they are not part of the teams, but there is conversations between the people who are representing them and the other interest groups. Some are politicians, some are the youth, some are the women, some are other, people involved in some other business that have interest in the conflict in Boko. Now, so that conversation needs to reach almost everyone. So multiple approaches are required, in order that we can at least always push forward a peace process. Now, the other thing is, and we supported together with the Northern Regional Peace Council, and was funded by USAID, CARE International was involved, supported the Dagbon Constitutional Review. Now, there have been many of these things. I mean, some call them some call them constitutions in the past that are no longer in tandem. There are aspects that are not in tandem with our constitutional regime. How do we get them reviewed? And these processes need to be, so that there can be commitments to them. They can be contemporary, otherwise, I think that in some jurisdictions, if a chief died or some other person died, another person needs to die, in order that a process can continue. Today, you can't do that in a constitutional regime, So there are aspects that need to be reviewed, and that the current generation can be part of those processes, that they would understand. Otherwise, stories are told, some of them have been stale, they are no longer in tandem with the current realities. How do they get to know that these are the things that, So, and that's why even in the review process, you will need the young people, you need the women, you need everyone to at least have a say in those reviews. So I think that is one of the things that can happen as far as the new realities are concerned. Now, you talk about, I'll leave the household conflicts for them, Ajia. Now, if I have, on the occasion of many occasions, people sharing press releases with me, and they are saying that these other people, this is what they shared, and there is this word they have used, and they are very angry about it. They want to react to it. Some of the time I said, Lulu, take out these words. When you talk about minority, majority, it itself creates a problem. Very often when somebody is, and today we have a problem, they say micro minority. I mean, some are saying, because the tendency for somebody to feel that even though I am small in number, then I should have a big say, that you feel that, no, you can't, run over me, and that usually becomes a problem. So very often we prefer words like marginalized, and then you can now talk about specific substantive policy issues, actions that somebody else is not treated well. And so this issue of settler, indigenous, and whatever it is, usually they create problems. I mean, the statement you've made about the header thing is a story we have heard a number of times. I did work for Peace Council in the Bole area and for several communities, supported by the UNDP. I did some for Solatuna Kalba. In fact, the week before this recent incident, I was there. And some of these stories come up, Now, in one of the instances, I counted the use of settler, not for the Upper East, but one of the regions, I mean, the Southern region, but one of the regions, 27 use of the word settler. Then I told them, look, this is intentional, so you need to be very mindful about this word. Don't react to it. If you react to it, then it's going to create more problem. Rather, engagement is very important. talk with the minds that matter, the minds that can support a peaceful process, you know. So such words, we need to be mindful about them. And I think that, you know, it's just about the vulnerability of individuals and how they feel about themselves. You know, I mean, there is no way you can say that an animal is better than a human being. It depends on what value you place on the two, you know, either of them. But then it is a statement that intends something that if you know, you just know that no, you don't need to go that length, because it will definitely become an issue to deal with. You know, so building it understand. I always say, if you install my big ears or my high ears or whatever it is, it's not a problem to me. I will say pass it to God, because God created me. So if you understand, and we say that if somebody steps on a stone, then the person says, let's stone each other. And so you always need to understand the dynamic. So awareness raising is very important. And that's why we are saying that, for example, if there is a formal process led by my former boss, Emmanuel Bombande, can there be other processes? There are so many civil society organizations, missions that are doing one thing or the other. The Peace Council is heavily present, you know, in the regions. And so can we deploy other strategies that will support these other processes that are formal, you know, and ongoing? And I think it's one of the ways to go. And I will not probably want to address that issue directly, as you have put it. Now, I want to say that I'll leave the school-based issue. Then also the male folk, I think, has been directed. Now, farmer header committees, mediation committees. You know, I'm aware of the SECOTAF's structure, as you have alluded to. ONEP is also doing, I mean, some of similar things. There are mediation facilitating committees. Then I know that there are several of the LRI, North Coke, there are several institutions that are doing one thing or the other across the regions as far as managing the agro-pastoralist tensions is concerned. You know, and I think it's just a matter of lack of understanding of the core benefits that exist, you know, between these two livelihood groups. In one instance, that was in time ago, somebody said, oh, is being a cattle herder is bad. And I said, well, when I was a child going to primary school, my father would go in the evening and cut two parcels of land for each of the sons. Early in the morning, 4:30, you go and weed, and then you go in a bath and go to school. You know, that is our livelihood. And so you can't come and tell my father that at this time, it is very bad to tell the young boy not to farm. It's a practice being imbued in me, and today I still like farming. So one party is involved in cattle rearing. Another party is involved in what? Crop farming. Between these two, there are benefits, core benefits that exist. And I don't want to belabor and talk about it, but it's a lack of understanding of development programming and thinking that one group should be developed more than the other. So it's lack of recognition of the influence of the two in terms of nutrition, in terms of wealth creation, in terms of our own livelihood and all that. So it requires a certain conversation. Now, how do we create the spaces and infrastructure enough for these two groups to coexist and interact, and including the communities that these activities are taking place? That's where we miss the point. You know, forgetting that now we have climate change, we have environmental degradation, we have population increase, we have infrastructure development that is impeding the tracks of these people, I mean, livelihood groups, commercialization in agriculture and animal farming and all that. There are several reasons, you know, that we overlooked gradually, and today we have the issue at hand. So it requires a conversation, it requires building of infrastructure to be able to support these livelihood groups, so that together, and those who are not directly involved, we will all benefit from their livelihoods. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Albert, for the...
So I think I can...
Yes, you can come in. If you people can also help us by so that...
Yes, so thank you. I think some few questions came to me. One was, how can women help in resolving conflict? I think that we have seen the role women play, either in pre or even within conflict or post-conflict, some of the roles that women play. And we've emphasized on the fact that women are not just perpetrators, but also they can also be people who can support the peace process. So as women, for me, I think that we have a mobilizing strength. And one of the things we do as a mobilizing strength, especially in our traditional role, when we are mediators, is how we even use culture, our songs, our tales, our storylines to demonstrate positive actions, for young people to emulate. But beyond that also is that women, we are like bridge builders. We go beyond just our political or ethnic divide to looking at some of the things that we do in our social event, like market trading, intermarriages, just to diffuse tensions. And then some of us are also critically involved in our advocacy and policy engagement. So women have several ways to help in resolving conflict, but most of them is the mentorship that we give to young people, how we are also the role we are playing when it comes to mediation. And then also early warnings. I remember in some communities, they will tell you that we know something is wrong because when the women went to the market, this section of the women, maybe from this ethnic group, did not come to school. And where children are also involved, they are mostly also able to tell that this particular section of this tribe have withdrawn coming to school. And so they give a lot of early warning signals to help in conflict resolutions. How can women economic empowerment reduce vulnerability to conflict? I think that we've talked about the drivers of conflict. And one of the drivers of conflict that we've mentioned is unemployment. And then also high risks of youth and women who are even being cajoled into joining some of these extremist groups. And so when women are economically empowered, and they are socially included, the dynamics that contribute to conflict, let's say the poverty, marginalization, the lack of voice, it can be ameliorated. So you see that empowered women can then influence male actors, reduce, some of these incentives for violence. A lot of us say that women are not usually asked to contribute in decision-making spaces. But I tell you, if you are in a family and you are economically empowered, they will come to you. They will want to seek your opinion because they know you are going to contribute something to it. And so we've also seen the burden of conflict on women, especially. And so when women are economically empowered, then they are also able to resist some of them. They are also able to be adaptive, to some of the situation. They will not be entirely that vulnerable. And so it is important that women are economically empowered. And so when they are, then it also reduces their vulnerability. And then my lady from WANEP wanted to see whether we have examples of women who have, done something around peace building. I can state a few of them. For example, in Savannah, the Regional Queen Mothers Association, their president, Ajay, if you can help me with her title, I'm not usually able to mention it. She led a team, resolving farmer header conflict. Kenshin Wuche, she led it with the women, the leadership of the Savannah Women Queen Mothers Association to solve the problem between some communities and the Fube community because of the farmer header issues that they had. In a number some 10 years ago, I remember the women's group. I can count a few of them. At the time, may her soul rest. Honorable Honorable Zahra, who has passed, but currently Honorable Zina is there, and other women from both the black and the white gate or whatever that is their representation came together, had a march within the principal street of Bimbilla,
Yeah.
Yes, march to one palace to the other, lamenting and crying. And I think that helped a lot. That look, irrespective of their difference in factions, in their palaces, they came together. It was surprising. That was something that we saw. And I think last year, the Charpone Queen Mothers, in collaboration with the Regional House of Chiefs, also had something at the Charpone Palace, where they did a street march and all of that. Countless of other individuals, Queen Borisa, for example, and a number of us who are contributing at radio in our various spaces. So these are some of the examples that we can say. And I think that perhaps what we can do against Sweden, Ghana, and other partners is to also document some of these things to help us be able to measure the impact we are creating and are playing when it comes to, how we are contributing to the gains in our peace. And then also the issue of domestic conflict. And then also household conflict. I think that it's true, Dr. Kodima, as you have mentioned, many times we are looking at the bigger things, but a number of times women are silently suffering at their household level. Sometimes also they are denied of resources that they have also contributed to build. Think, for example, the way we divorce in our homes. The man just says, "I'm no longer interested in you," and will not look at the contribution you have, contributed in building the house. And then you are made to leave that house you have contributed to. That's one bigger thing. And I think for us, that is why we are pushing, for people, for our traditional authority to appreciate the inheritance challenges that comes to women. For example, the property right, for example, the Land Act, for example, the gendered aspect of the Land Act, where we need to emphasize education on. Because if you and I are married, and in the marriage you are able to buy any property, I think it should be registered in both of our names. Yes, I'm saying this, and I'm already thinking men will be like, what? And I remember in a radio discussion, somebody called and said that, what am I saying? Why should it be registered in the woman and the man's name? So that if the man dies, the woman will take the property and go and marry another, But you forget that even if the woman also dies, you are taking the same property to marry another. In any case, in our polygamous home, who benefits what is another question. So the issue of household conflicts is important. And for me, I think that alternative resolution methods, we need to bring that in. We also need to look at our family and child welfare policies, what it says, how we are supporting women, even our Domestic Violence Act, how it's being implemented is also very key. And so it's important for us to look at it, because when you bring survivors of domestic violence together and you listen to some of the stories, you'll be amazed about on what how women are traumatized and are very depressed even in their homes, but they dare not talk about it. And then also we need to encourage people to speak up. We need to encourage women to speak up. When you speak up, you will get help. It doesn't mean that you don't love your family or your husband. That is why you are speaking up. I also know that in our homes, especially in some families, the moment you send son to even DOFSO, then it means the marriage is over. You've sent their son to police. And so we need to, again, do a lot of community level sensitization about some of these things, how it affects women, girls, and our entire development. So I don't know whether I was able to get all the questions answered, but this is how, these are, what I got on what we can do to resolve conflicts within our homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hajia Lamnatu, for the responses. You are getting a lot of thumbs up, the two of you who responded. Muslim, did you have some
Yes,
questions?
Hajia.
Yes.
Yes, I think I was asked by
In 2
Dr.
minutes.
Kodima. Yeah.
In 2 minutes.
Yeah. So his question was whether we've had an instance where authorities often side with either herders or farmers due to
Yes,
financial
yes.
compensations or political patronage in the case of farmer-herder conflict. So I think my direct experience with the farmer-herder conflict is primarily focused on a significant case. That's the Karga farmer-herder conflict. I was deeply, it was deeply insightful and also hands-on. So I serve on the mediation team where my primary responsibility were just basically the stakeholder mapping and the strategic engagement. So our we began not by imposing solutions, but by listening through a series of facilitated dialogues and even confidential interviews that we had with authorities. So we're able to brought all the warring parties, that's the local farmers, the Fulani herders, even the critical, the often overlooked traditional landowners to the table. And this were, this is where we made one critical discovery, Ajia. Our mapping revealed that the core of the conflict was not simply animal trampling on crops or something like that, which was the surface level symptom that everybody can talk about. But the root cause was a governance and land tenure issue. So the powerful landowners, you see that, who held the customary right to these vast areas, do not deliberately demarcate or allocate any land for grazing. Okay, so this forced herders to trespass on farmlands and farmers to cultivate right up the edges of the paths that were once used for the cattle. So realize that the armed with this insight, we use dialogue not as a mere talking shop, okay, but a tool for collaborative problem solving. So we reframed the conversation. It was no longer farmers versus herders, but rather the community versus the problem. That made the work so easy for us. So we facilitated a negotiation where the landowners were engaged not as villains, but as essential partners in the solution. So the dialogue focused on their historical role as custodians of the land and their responsibility in also fostering community harmony. So the outcome was a community-led proposal for the formal demarcation of grazing corridors. So a solution that addresses the root cause we had uncovered. So this experience taught us that sustainable conflict resolution hinges on moving beyond just the symptoms to uncover the underlying structural drivers, and that inclusive dialogue is the most powerful tool. And it also made me understand that in every conflict, as a leader or as even a woman leader, what we need to prioritize so much when we have conflict at hand is analysis. We need to take the analytical skills very serious. So even in the capacity building that I mentioned earlier on, we need to be intentional about training our women to be able to equip themselves with the analytical skills. Because analysis helps you to understand the historical background of the conflict. It helps you to even identify the stakeholders that you need to be able to resolve the conflict. That was the tool that we deployed, and we got the problem manageable so far. So that is what I have on that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, our cherished panelists. You've been very fantastic. And then we are just concluding. We'll soon take our concluding statement. But our panelists, before you go, I want each of you, in 1 or 2 words, in 1 or 2 words, that you want to share with us, that each part, this thing to take as an action forward. So I'm starting with Fatih. Fatih hasn't spoken for long. So Fatih, in 2 words.
Yeah, so I don't know whether it is words, but all I wanted to borrow a phrase from UN Women
Okay.
that says that you need so let me say that Northern Ghana needs peace.
Yeah.
And this peace we are asking for, actually, we need women's leadership for it.
Thank you.
So this will be my final words.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to Albert. Albert. Okay, can I take Hajia Lamnatu?
Hello?
Hajia Lamnatu?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Albert is here.
Okay, Albert.
Well, I just want to say that as we celebrate, let's probably all tweet. You know, peace is everyone's business.
Okay.
On the heels of the statement of the Secretary General, you know, if we all tweet this way, I think it will be helpful.
It will
I
be helpful.
appreciate your attendance. Thank you very much.
Let's all tweet. Peace is everyone's business. So I'm going to Musin.
How
2
about
words.
me?
2 final words. So you come last now.
Okay, so I think Hajia, can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think today's meeting is just a validation of what the late Kofi Annan once said, that the successful achievement of the globe will be impossible without the meaningful participation of the women. So I think we need to thank you very much for organizing this particular program for us to share experiences and also learn from one another. Thank you very much.
Is that your 2 words? Thank you. 2 words. Can I take Hajia Lamnatu?
Yes, so we need to invest in women leadership at all levels, and then also fund women-led initiatives.
Thank you very much. So as I conclude with my closing remark, I want to appreciate our participants and then also read some of the messages people have put. If not, that would not be fair. I think that Noah said very insightful. Hajia, while doing that, I'm also acknowledging those people who are participating and still there right from 4 o'clock. Hajia Fatih Osun Foundation, thank you for joining and saying very good submissions. Then I have Noah also commenting. I have Womek saying that nothing for women without women. Then I want to also acknowledge Hajia Hamdatu. Hajia Hamdatu is a member, one of the strong leaders of Awlin. Hajia, we are proud that you joined. Thank you very much. And for saying that, as for the table, we must be there as women. And we must be there in our numbers. And we must be there prepared with capacity. Yes, Doris said, great presentation. Thanks so much indeed. Peace is everyone's business. This is Oga Doris. Then Madam Fatih Twa. Fatih also does a lot of very good webinars on different perspectives. I'm sure sooner than later she'll be doing one on peace because she does a lot of women. So Madam Fozia Twa, thank you very much for telling us that the submissions have been very brilliant. Then I want to come to Dr. Joyce. Dr. Rejoice is my UN friend. Great event, practical insight from all speakers. Peace is everyone's business. So the tweet is started. Yes. So we will look at that. Then we go to King Tijani. He said, thank you, Cynthia, for bringing forth the question that was on my mind. So Cynthia, thank you. And then we go to Madam Joyce. Yes, Sabri said, thank you for asking that. So for Hajia, no, Helena says, my question, however, are you reviving the role of youth in conflict resolution, especially more youth-led initiative? I think this has been answered in one way or the other. They said Musin has been very emphatic about it. Albert too did the same, and then Madam Fatih. Virtually all the 4 of them looked at it. Then I have Madam Aisha of Golden Inspire. He said that on behalf of the organization, they stand in solidarity with all the partners convening this memorable day. Aisha, thank you very much for coming in with their appreciation. Then also Albert again writes that, the issue of compromise of leaders, such as chiefs and police, is a gap that needs to be addressed. It is an illicit economic activity by the chiefs and the members of the police who are involved in such. This is in response to one of the questions that I was looking at in a case like that, where at the end of the day, the farmer loses out. So thank you for that. I want to say, Madam Doris Mensah also said, how do we proactively stop and intervene to long-standing family disputes who have been fighting over chieftaincy land issues for a long time? Madam Doris, sorry, I saw your hands up later, but I think that I had already closed, so sorry. But this your question, I don't know who can answer it, but the time is almost against us. Then very impressed, that's Grace, about all the submissions. We have, do women really influence conflicts and how? This is from Bukari Abdul Shakuru. Yes, we do. In different forms that Ajia Lamnatu mentioned. And then I think Muxi also brought a lot of perspective to it. We do it at our own level, even through issues of early warning, and those are all ways of influencing things that would have been escalated. We are able to stop it very fast. Doris Mensah said, thanks so much for your insightful presentation. And on that note, I want to say, Dr. Appreciate all our very, very distinguished panelists. I want to appreciate Dr. Equia from the UN Women. I want to appreciate our Vice President who spoke, that's Madam Juliet. I want to say also thank you to Dr. Binka and then the team in the office who facilitated this and made us get here. Today's discussion has been very clear and so insightful. Contributions from everyone that has joined, especially our panelists and even those who have chance to speak. As we reflect on this International Day of Peace, we will have to remind that peace is not merely the absence of conflict. From all the discussion, I think that is what has come out very clearly, but the presence of justice. We need justice, economic justice, social justice, legal justice, political justice. We just need justice, equality, and opportunity. And these are very obviously made clear by each panelist here. So each of us as policymakers, traditional leaders, civil society organizations, media, and the community have a responsibility to move beyond just the dialogue that we organize and take concrete steps. That is the essence of this webinar, that there are examples of good practices that we can rely on and to be able to move forward with whatever idea that we have. We have also acknowledged the disproportionate impact of conflict on women. We've done that very obviously by all of us. And then we talk about displacement, we talk about livelihood loss, exposure to gender-based violence, disruption of education, and the impact is so obvious. And as Northern Ghana, that we find ourselves. Already the inequalities are wide. Conflict, if we do not get women involved to avoid it, we are going to continue to expand in terms of inequality, and that is not right. And so therefore, we want to say thank you to UN Women, to AWLIN, to WANEP Ghana, to Women, Media and Change, and to SEDA for putting this together. So on behalf of all of you as organizers, I want to thank all of you for believing that peace begins with action, and action therefore begins with all of us. Thank you all for making time, and may we continue to treat. Let's treat till this month end. Today is just peace, but we need a peace every day, so we cannot just say a day is enough. A day is not enough. Every day we should live peace, we should practice peace, we should believe in peace, and we should act peace. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you.
I want to call,
Thank you.
We needed to take a vote of thanks, but it appears I've done that too.
You've done it. Thanks, Ajia.
I've done that. So, but we can get someone to pray for us so that we can go and sleep peacefully and get up peacefully and continue to treat.
Ajia, please, can we turn on our cameras for a group photo?
Yeah, that's important. Please let me clean my face. Heat will not finish me in this office. Please turn on your cameras. Why? We'll take correct pictures. Want to finish me with us. Please, I'm in a meeting. Yes. Please, can we take the cameras and then who is helping now? Dorothy, are you the one doing that?
Yes, please, I'm still waiting for the others to turn on their cameras.
Hey, Madam Fozia, bring your beautiful face. Bring it. Let me go and call people. Let me call people. Albert, have you seen your face? Dr. Rejoice, my madam, bring your face.
Some days are casual days, so people are relaxing on their couches without hair, without hair covered and body showing and things.
Oh, that's true. So, Madam Janet, thank you for being prepared. Dr. Pippa, come out. Oh, Aisha, come out. Madam Beta, come out. Oh, come out. Bryce, come out. Come out. Called Ghana. Doctor, bring your face. Handsome, bring your face. Then I have Erica. Madam Beautiful, bring. Hey, my Ajia, my own daughter Ajia Sedu, bring your beautiful face. Grace. All right, so I think that's all we can get so that this one too doesn't take too much time.
Yes, please, we are good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
I'm not. All of you have been so fantastic. And I think we should do more of this.
Yeah.